This video is sponsored by K&F Concept. So we often talk about tiny cameras on this channel, but what about the tiny lenses to go with it? Here are my very favourite teeny tiny micro four thirds lenses, so you can go out and have a really small everyday carry that has excellent photo quality. Let's start with the pancake stock lens options. I think while they're not the lenses that I would gravitate to first, I think they're always handy to have because they're very small and very versatile. There's two official ones to choose from on the Micro Four Thirds platform, and I was team Lumix on this front for quite a while, but I've recently been using the Olympus equivalent, and I think it's really blooming good. So despite the Lumix one being a little bit bigger, the Olympus one actually has a little bit more range. This is a 14 to 42, so you get much more range considering it's so tiny. The thing about the two that differentiates them is, aside from the focal lengths, this is 12 to 32, 14 to 42. So if you prefer a long end, this one, wider, this one, is the way that they operate. The Olympus one is motorized, which is a love or loathe sort of thing for a lot of photographers, I think, because it's slightly less tactile to use. But the Lumix one pops out like that. And if you turn the camera on when it's collapsed, you get this sort of warning thing pop up and it's like, oh, open up the lens. And the amount of times over the years that this has cost me photographs is insane, because it takes just an extra couple of seconds, but by that time the moment may be gone. So I think because the Olympus is a little bit more versatile and you do get more zoom, I do prefer that one currently. But they're both very good, and if you have a Lumix camera that isn't stabilized, so like a GM1, a GM5, a GX800, etc., the Lumix stock is stabilized, whereas the Olympus one isn't. So pros and cons to both, but definitely worth keeping one in your bag because the cheapest chips and very versatile. Next is a bit of a camera nerd alert and a bargain alert if you're into that. I've been a huge fan of the Lumix Leica 15mm f1.7 for ages, but it's notoriously quite a spenny lens. New, you can still buy them for around £500. However, I was recently sort of made aware of the DJI clone, and you may think you're seeing double because the clone is absolutely insane. Like, even down to the aperture ring, every little thing is basically identical, just a different branding. And you can get the DJI one for like £100. You can buy them off AliExpress and eBay and things like that. It's very interesting because it's a very good lens, it's very compact, and now we have two options. So what are the differences? Well, I do have a video coming up where I will pit them against each other, so keep an eye out for that. But in my findings in a nutshell, the DJI one has a slightly different coating on the lens compared to the Lumix Leica. The reason being is the DJI one is designed to go on Micro Four Thirds drones. So it's designed to be in the sky all the time. So the coating is very aggressive to be anti-flare, to keep everything really clear and crisp in bright, harsh light. Whereas the Lumix Leica coating is more around colour accuracy and the usual good stuff with the Leica branded lenses. In reality though, in day to day, I reckon you could put two images side by side and probably not notice the difference. One thing to bear in mind with the DJI before you all rush out and buy one is I have been reading online that continuous autofocus doesn't work with certain cameras. Now in my findings, I don't know if I've got like a newer version of the DJI lens or what, but I've tried it on the OM3, I've tried it on the G9 II, and I've tried it on all the other contrast-based cameras, and it's working absolutely fine. So maybe it differs if there's an older version of this lens, I don't know, let me know in the comments. In my findings, the continuous autofocus works identically on both copies. The 15mm focal length gives you a 30mm equivalent in full frame terms, so a little bit wider than your average sort of walkabout lens, but it's a very interesting focal length. I love that you have the aperture ring as well, so it adds to a nice tactile experience. Just bear in mind, oh, I wonder if the aperture will work on... Okay, one more thing to add to that. Despite them both having aperture rings, the Lumix Leica aperture ring will work with Lumix cameras only. The aperture ring on the DJI seems to work with neither brand. Maybe it only works with DJI drones. Really weird design choice. Next on the list, and probably my most used lens in 2025 so far, the refreshed OM System 17mm f1.8. It's very, very nice. There is the older version, which is Olympus branded. In terms of image quality, they are very, very similar. It comes down to a couple of differences as to whether you want to spring for the new one, which is probably a little bit more expensive, or get a used market bargain with the original. The original has a manual focus clutch, which some people love. I did not get on with. I found more often than not I would engage it accidentally and think the lens was broken. So I'm quite happy to see it gone. The newer version is somewhat weather sealed. It does have a weather sealing rating, so pros and cons to both. I have a dedicated review on the refreshed primes, which I'll link in the description if you want to learn more, but so far I've really loved it. If I had a decent copy of the original, the 17mm, I don't know if it's enough to warrant upgrading. However, my original was battered and bruised and definitely in need of a refresh. I've taken the 17mm on many an adventure, from Valencia to most recently Tokyo, where I even got some really good video clips on the GH5 with it as well. The bloom that you see is a mist filter. It's not like a characteristic of the lens. It was a creative choice. Great lens, very portable and ideal for an everyday carry. And completely unrelated to the lens that I've just mentioned. Did you know that if you join my mailing list, you get instant access to many a discount code, which you can use on many an official website that sells cameras and lenses? OMG. It's a really, really good thing to check out if you're in the market for a new lens. Another thing I love about the OM System 17mm and its twin, the 25mm, and the Lumix Leica / DJI 15mm that I've just mentioned, is they all share the same filter thread. They're all 46mm, which means I can use my teeny tiny most favorite do everything filter on all of these lenses when I'm out and about. This is the K&F Concept Nano X series. It does everything. It has a mist filter built in, it has a variable ND and a circular polarizer. And I love that K&F Concept keep their premium products for the smaller filter thread sizes as well as the large ones, because so many companies don't cater to tiny lens enthusiasts. You might get an amazing filter from another company, but it's like a 77mm thread and you have to stop it down all the way to 46 if you want to use it on a micro four thirds lens. If variable ND is not your cup of tea, that rhymes, you should check out the magnetic version of this series of filters. You can just pop it on and off and it's just a mist filter. It's so convenient, because sometimes you want a mist filter, sometimes you don't want it on all the time. If you're just able to sort of pop it on and off magnetically, it's great. Check out the filters in the links in the description, and let's get back to the nerdiness. The Olympus 17mm f2.8 pancake lens. Look at the size of that. Absolutely minuscule. While the previous 17mm I was talking about is pretty damn small, we can all agree, this is just above and beyond. I think if you want a everyday carry that you could properly put in your pocket, like if you pair this with a GX800, for example, it's very, very small and literally pocketable. So yes, you do lose a little bit of aperture. It's 2.8 versus 1.8. but it's incredibly sharp and incredibly compact and stupidly affordable. This is a very, very cheap, often overlooked tiny lens in my opinion, and I'm really glad that I've added it to my collection. In the super tiny pancake arena, which is a very interesting sentence, you can also get the 14mm f2.5 Lumix pancake lens, which is about the same footprint as the 17mm. They're both pretty much the smallest autofocus, functional, decent lenses that you can get on the Micro Four Thirds system. However, for me, I think the 14mm is just that little bit too wide sometimes, so I'm gravitating towards the 17mm personally. But if you want a wider lens that's still pocketable, check out the Lumix one as well. Let's talk about ultra wide lenses. I got an absolute bargain on one of these in Tokyo recently, and it's been on my to buy list for ages, so I'm glad that I finally got it, and that's the Lumix Leica 9mm f1.7. The photographs you can get out of this are just insane. Edge to edge sharpness. It's an incredibly light lens. It even has a really close minimal focus distance, so you can have fun with wide angle macro shots, which is mad. Now you will notice when you are researching these lenses, I have linked them all in the description, you do get a bit of a price jump when we get wider. Now the reason being is if you have a crop sensor, so Micro Four Thirds is a 2x crop, it's very affordable usually to get zoom because the crop is working in your favor. So that's why on this system, if you shoot wildlife, there's a plethora of zoom lenses that are excellent quality and usually more affordable than full frame. However, the opposite is true on the wide end because the 2x crop is working against us and it makes it harder to create wide angle lens. Yeah, you do pay a little bit more for the wide angle choices usually, but the quality you get is insane. I actually love the Lumix Leica. I had it on loan the week that it came out many years ago, and I've been waiting to find it at a good price ever since, and I did manage to find it for around £220 in Tokyo, which I know is a steal. To set your expectations elsewhere, it's probably double that. Another tiny wide angle lens to consider is the Laowa 6mm. Now this is comically wide. It takes you a good few photo walks to like recalibrate your brain because it's super wide. The effects that you can get are incredible. This is the only third-party lens on this list, so it must be good. It is manual focus, but at 6mm, everything is basically in focus. It's quite heavy, despite it being quite small. It's a metal build and it is quite chunky for the size, but if it's only size and creativity that you care about, the 6mm is really fun to play with. For me, the 9mm is plenty wide enough, and I do value that it is lighter and lighter. Ooh. But if you do want something super creative, definitely check out the Laowa. I have a dedicated video on that which I shot a little bit ago, and I had loads of nerdy fun with that lens. And my favourite pick on the list, because I cannot quit this lens despite all of its flaws, is the Lumix 20mm f1.7. It is tiny, it is flawed, it does not like continuous autofocus. If you try and shoot video with it, even with a phase detect camera, it just ends badly. It's one of the oldest lenses on the system, but my goodness, if you're looking for the 40mm equivalent focal length, which in my opinion is my favourite for a walkabout focal length, it's slim pickings on the Micro Four Thirds system. There aren't many options, and this one is by far the smallest, and the images are super duper sharp. If I could pick any lens on the Micro Four Thirds system to get a refresh, it would be this one. It's just blooming brilliant, but the focus motors are more dated. It's one of the very first prime lenses that came out on the system, so it does need a refresh, but for photography, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's usually the first lens that I reach for if I'm testing out a new camera. It's blooming great. If you want something with better autofocus, but you lose quite a bit of the benefits of its size, then the Olympus Pro 20mm f1.4 is a delight. It's a pro lens, so it's expensive, it's bigger, it's made of metal, better aperture, much better autofocus, but it is that bit larger, unfortunately. For me, despite its flaws, I still love the convenience of the Lumix 20mm. So I've links in the description for all of the dedicated videos on these lenses if you'd like to learn more, and let me know in the comments which is your favourite.